Welcome to a new episode of ET in Conversation. In this episode, we are joined by Sunjay Kapur, Chairman of Sona Comstar, one of the leading mobility technology companies supplying highly engineered components to automotive giants worldwide. A listed company, it has presence that spans 10 manufacturing facilities across multiple geographies in India, USA, Serbia, Mexico, and even China. The company that mastered precision forging technology and pivoted early on in 2016 towards electrical vehicle technology, that's EV, and mobility solutions. Its EV products today account for 29% of its revenue and comprise 77% of its order book. Sunjay in this episode shares his perspective on building and sustaining a successful business. He shares how the company has survived the 2008 crisis and why he believes cash reserves are critical for a company. So let's dive into this conversation with Sunjay Kapur and learn about the big milestones of his journey, why he has given up day-to-day operations and management to hire a professional CEO to run the show now, and what has he learned about running business from his favorite game, polo. Welcome, Sanjay. Thanks for doing this conversation with Economic Times. First of all, congratulations on 25 years of the journey with your company.
Thank you.
And for us, it's important to understand how does a company survive that long? What should a company or an auto ancillary company, which is say about 50 crore or 100 crore, understand from your journey? How do you prep for it?
Firstly, thank you, for having me on the show. I think from a perspective of longevity, it's how you start looking at the business right from the beginning. When we looked at our business and when I look at my business today, I look at it from a 50 to 100 year view because, we're building a business that should live way beyond our time. I think one of the key focus areas for us when we started our business was quality. We wanted to build a world-class company when it came to quality. A key driver in our business that sort of really motivated us to, do what we did in terms of building a real strong quality business. There are certain, times that you can never be prepared for. For example, the pandemic, COVID, none of us were prepared for it. It's how you survive through that time. And therefore, you've always got to plan for bad times and good times. And I continuously say that because, we saw that in 2008. One of the biggest sort of shocks to the world was what happened in 2008, at least in my business lifetime. And I'm glad I got to experience that because it definitely prepared us for the pandemic.
Can you let our viewers know what exactly happened?
With the Lehman crash, with the financial markets crashing, a lot of businesses that were in debt, a lot of businesses that were leveraged faced a lot of challenges. And what I noticed during COVID was very few businesses were leveraged. Very few businesses had high debt. And therefore, majority of the businesses survived. And you could see that across the supply chain because, whilst we were sitting in a good position when it came to cash, one of the things that I always say is that cash is reality. Revenue is vanity, profits are sanity, but cash is reality. So it really matters in terms of what kind of cash you have. And one of the driving factors of business growth is technology. And we've been an early adopter of technology because we've always believed that technology is what will put us at the cutting edge because that's the only way the companies are really going to survive in the future is through technology. Today, quality is a hygiene factor. Every company has to have quality. But having technology, owning your technology, whether it be through your own investments in R&D, or it be through joint venture agreements, or it be through technical collaborations, having technology is key. You need to build a profitable business, right? People very often shy away from this. Mm-hmm. They think it's a bad thing, but you need to build a profitable business because only if you have profits can you plow back into R&D.
In this playbook, where does relationships with OEMs stand, especially in the space that you operate in?
Relationship with OEM is really based on what kind of investments you're making to make their product better. OEMs are looking for companies that are willing to make that investment in technology, willing to go the extra mile to make sure that their products become better.
In the automotive life cycle, there's always a cyclical business where there's pressure. Right now, for instance, in the Indian auto space, not many cars are selling, and the pressure goes back to the supply chain system to cut the price, reduce the cost so that they can ship more cars. How do you thereby balance, right?
Yeah.
Where does price play a role when you're managing this relationship with OEM? Because they, like you rightly said, quality is hygiene. So they'll expect the best quality from you, but quality comes at a price. But they also want the cheapest.
Yeah. The relationships that we have with OEMs are symbiotic relationships. I don't think the OEMs aim is to cut price, but it's to lower cost. And that is our aim too. If you look at logically, as economies of scale grow, you should be able to better cost. You should be able to build a more efficient business. Build a more efficient business so that you can pass on some cost saving as well as build a more profitable business for yourself.
So for a company like yours and in your ecosystem, how often does one need to go back and check the processes and systems to make it more efficient and optimal? Because every few years in any company, you keep on adding resources, you keep on adding cost, and the flap builds.
No, you need to do it constantly. In fact, this is why we deploy AI.
Right.
So AI tools today can tell us how to reduce cycle time, can tell us how to lay out machinery in a better way. So we need to do this constantly. This is not let me do it once in a while. This is an everyday exercise. I mean, we were taught, by the Japanese, we were taught the term Kaizen. Kaizen is continuous improvement. Continuous improvement happens on a daily basis. If there is a area where there is waste, when it comes to wastage of time, wastage of material, etc., you need to continuously improve it because you want to build a better and better business. So this is something that is an ongoing process. And companies in the auto component sector that have had the exposure to Japanese joint ventures have learned this and built much more efficient businesses, than any other sector, I would say.
On that point, you've had relationships with Japanese companies, German companies. What are the nuances when, a company in your ecosystem or, in your sector, when they go about working either joint partners or acquiring companies? You've done acquisition yourself. Because if you're acquiring a Japanese company versus a German company, completely different cultures. Yeah. One is at least Asian, but the other is complete European. Yeah. How do you navigate some of those relationships?
The key is management. What we don't do is change management. Okay. Because we don't profess that we're better at running a business than somebody else's who's been running it for years.
So you're not challenging the people.
We're not changing the people.
Okay.
We're not bringing in our own resources, etc. So I'll give you an example. The company we acquired in Serbia, Novelic, we own a majority of the company. However, the founders still have a significant stake in the business because they have to have a stake in the outcome because they know how to run the business. Look at Comstar, we acquired it from Blackstone, all the management has remained. One of our core strengths really has been that we've had people work with us for years and years and years, for a very long time. Even if you look at the railway equipment division, the CEO will remain, people will remain, and this company will remain in the same shape and form, except the ownership will change.
So while everyone talks of China plus one, according to you, is China plus one a starting point? Because you as a company have gone much beyond that. You've gone different geographies. Are you looking at China plus one as a big opportunity for yourselves, or you think there's much more to be done? So let China plus one be one of the things that I do.
So I think anyone who wants to put additional capacity in India is definitely a benefit for India because look, from my perspective, manufacturing to GDP is 14%, it needs to go to 25%. We've got a great demographic dividend, but if we don't have manufacturing jobs, we will have a problem in the future. And we need to look at it from that perspective and address it from that perspective. So China plus one is one strategy. Building a manufacturing hub for the world is what we should aim to do. And again, it comes back to what kind of investments are we making in tech? What kind of investments are we making in capital expenditure? What kind of money is private sector putting into businesses to grow the manufacturing sector?
But does it all only depend on the private sector to do? Is there a larger ecosystem by the government at large come into place to capture this global?
So I think government has invested sufficiently in infrastructure, in development. Yes, could we, tweak the PLI schemes, etc.? Of course, definitely there's room to do a lot of that. However, I think private sector's role is to invest in technology, invest in manufacturing.
In the China Plus One, is there a trick or two that we're missing still?
In our industry is the last man standing, where all the forgings, the castings, etc., that are happening in the West can move to India. So that's another huge opportunity. When I talk about building a global manufacturing hub for the world, there lies the other opportunity, which is not necessarily tech related, but is manufacturing related.
But what will, tip in India in the favor for this, for the simple reason that there's geopolitics at play. Right now we see Europe is not happy with the Chinese cars flooding their market, and they're imposing policies and imposing tax on letting the Chinese come in. At some point the same can happen here, right? And history tends to repeat itself. Tomorrow we'll have Trump come in, we don't know how things will change. So how does one company gear up and understand and figure out the path ahead, taking into consideration that the geopolitics at play can completely disrupt?
So you're right. If you asked me 5 years ago, do we do anything on geopolitics, or even 3 years ago, I'd probably say, no, we don't. We don't even look at it. We ignore it. But today, there is a lot of geopolitical influence in a lot of the things that we do. Look, I don't believe we can ever stop imports. I don't believe we can localize 100%. And I don't think we should. And I don't think that's the answer. I think one of the greatest strengths that we have as a nation is that we're neutral. And being neutral has definitely helped us. We need to look at business from a perspective of what the opportunity is today. I don't think that we can predict what will happen 5 to 10 years from now, but agility is something that all businesses need to sort of...
So be prepared for things otherwise.
Always be prepared. We have 2 plants in Mexico, right? Because we do understand that there will come a time when customers will demand more from Mexico if they're in the United States. We've got 2 facilities in China. We've got a facility in Serbia, and then the remainder of our facilities are in India, and then we've got one in North America. But we need to be prepared to be able to sort of almost respond to what happens next. And you're right, you don't know what will happen in politics.
You read the tea leaves quite early in transition, but prepared for the EV business. What did you see coming?
So I think, we saw a regulation and customer demand, moving towards cleaner fuels, moving towards a cleaner environment. I also say that there was a lot of luck when it came to us in 2016. We were much smaller.
Quite honest of you to admit. Few businessmen admit luck.
No, but I think a lot of what we've done is timing and luck.
You could have taken the credit for being fortune teller, but thanks for being honest.
Also, we were a smaller company.
Right.
We were not afraid to fail. Success does that to you. It sort of makes you more afraid and more paranoid and more sort of careful almost. One of the things that we did when we took over Comstar, which was a big risk. It was a big risk because it was an IC combustion engine driven business. Today, only 10% of our revenue is combustion engine based, right? And the majority of it is agnostic to whether it's EV or ICE. 36% of our revenue comes from EV. So when we bought Comstar, we invested heavily in R&D to transition to traction motors. But before that, we transitioned to other motors where we failed. And we weren't afraid of failing. We invested money, we invested time, but we failed at it. And we've come with our fair share of failures, but we've not been afraid of that. So I think, when you're small, you have that ability to take that risk.
But what are the headwinds that could hit you on EV business? Because at least the last few months, EV business hasn't really taken off to the extent that it was assumed to be or imagined to be in US and even in India?
Yeah, so two things there. One, we've grown in EV just because we've captured more market share. The challenges in EV are in range anxiety. I mean, I'll give you a simple example. You leave home in the morning with 100% battery life on your phone. If it's 50 at lunchtime, you're already thinking about where to charge it,
Right.
by the time you finish your workday. So range anxiety is a real issue. And I think there are several solutions that are being worked upon that will allow us to overcome that range anxiety. So the opportunities that lie in this new economy, on this disruptive economy, when you look at automotive, when you look at electrification, are not just in infrastructure, in the vehicle itself, with regard to connectivity, with regard to telematics, with regard to autonomous. And then there's a circular economy, which is going to play a very big role because, again, we're looking for carbon neutrality. Businesses want to have a carbon footprint which is zero carbon footprint. So
what one reads and hears about you is that you're also investing in some startups. Is that something in your own ecosystem, or are you doing it something much different and beyond your ecosystem?
So I am, our family office invests in startups which are a lot to do with our own ecosystem, but a lot to do with clean energy as well. Okay. Because it's the need of the hour. I mean, you look at the pollution in a place like Delhi, and it's horrible to see what's going on and what the kids have to breathe and even ourselves. So therefore, I think it's important to make the right investments and the right bets. And I think that the startup ecosystem is something that we must encourage. The startup ecosystem is something that requires the help of larger businesses. It requires incubation. It requires accelerator programs. Requires access to testing, not just research, but capital. Of course, capital is a given. But more than that, testing. How do you test your products? How do you do? So I think, that whole ecosystem has to be built out.
So would it be right to say that this is your baby feet into the future? Because these are the things that you're seeing in your ecosystem already, the requirement for cleaner energy, transition, all of that. Would it be right to say that this is also part of your playbook?
Yeah, so I feel that mobility has changed. Let me back it up by saying automotive has moved to mobility, right? If you look at our announcement on the railway division, railway, after walking and bicycling and cycling, is the cleanest form of mobility.
Is that the reason why you invested?
Well, it is a reason why we want to invest in it, because we think it's clean mobility. Also, it's another business opportunity for us, definitely, because railway infrastructure is developing. There's opportunity for bullet trains, for speed trains. There's opportunity for so much that's going on in the railway. Given the fact that we've advanced so much in infrastructure development, right? I feel it'll be it's a good business opportunity.
So, any other interesting mobility trends that you notice?
I think bots are going to be an opportunity. I think humanoid robots are going to be an opportunity, which are going to be a real opportunity in the future. I feel space is going to be a huge opportunity.
So there have been some experiments, right? More so in Dubai, what one hears, the small little bots or pods, they call it, Uber pods, flying from one building to the other, one place to the other. Is that something that you see, panning out?
Definitely.
At some point.
Electric, the eVTOLs, electric vertical landing and takeoffs, 100%. Pods, 100%. Humanoid robots, yes. I see all that happening.
Is your company planning for it? Being ready for the transition if it happens?
We will continuously invest in technology, and we will hope to continue to supply into the mobility industry. And as the mobility industry changes, we're going to have to change what we do as well. And we'll continue to do that. That's part of management's role.
Right. Last two questions. One, you have transitioned from being a CEO of the company to becoming the chairman, to give up control, to have someone else be in the driving seat, while either you're pillion riding or not. How has been the transition?
Yeah. So I've given up management for ownership, right? And I've transitioned from a manager to an owner. It wasn't an easy decision. I think one of the things that you need to let go first is your ego. The CEO of our business is a better CEO than I am. And you need to realize, if you realize that, you should sort of let someone else run the business. I think he's a great CEO.
But it ain't easy, right? I mean, to have a professional run your company, and you've run it for so many years, successfully so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you want to do what's best for the company. I don't want to sound sort of, cliched, but you want to do what's best for the company so that you can do other things that are also helping the company, helping the manufacturing infrastructure, etc. For me personally, I looked at how do we build the next big Bosch or ZF or, out of India. And to do that, you need to have a business that's completely and truly professional, right? And when I looked at different business models from Europe, I looked at how families had transitioned from, management to ownership. And I think the relationship between, the leadership and me has to be strong. And fortunately, our CEO and I have a great relationship, and I hope that it continues through the generations.
If I could ask you the 3 tenets of having such a relationship, how would you list them?
I think trust is number 1. I think alignment is number 2, and time. I think it requires time. Any relationship requires time. Vivek and I find a lot of time, make a lot of time, so that we can spend time together.
How does one go about finding such talent?
It's not easy. When you're in a role like mine, you're always looking for talent. Vivek and I met by chance. I had a friend who went to school with me, and I reached out to him and said, I'm looking for young leaders. And Vivek and I met in 2015. March 2015, he joined us. June 2015, my father passed away, and then Vivek and I had the task of restructuring the business.
Where does Sona Comstar go from here?
So like I said, Sona Comstar is now what we call in the mobility space. And we will continue to be in the mobility space as far as I can see, at least in terms of developing and building new technologies. We have a radar and sensor business. We have a mobility business which is catered to the automotive industry. We've got mobility which is catered to railway. If you look at the landscape, we are moving, and we would want to continue to move up the value chain when it comes to technology. So we'll continue to invest in technology. Where will we be 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now? I don't know. But I can say this, that there will be more involvement in software. There will be more involvement in, radar, sensors, and autonomous in mobility as a whole. And we will follow that trend.
What many don't know about you is you're a polo player, an avid polo player. But beyond polo, any other sport that you fancy or are part of on a regular basis?
Yeah, I mean, I do every sport. I ski a lot, play tennis, I swim. I used to swim for my state, in fact, when I was in school. I do every kind of sport there is.
But you also own a polo player or part own a polo team?
Yeah, I run my own polo team.
What are the learnings that you've picked up from there, if there are, which have helped you in your business?
So, one of the things that I've learned from sport is to lose and come back. And I've lost a lot. I mean, I've lost a lot of games. It takes a long time to start winning. I have a team. We sort of give it our best shot, and we go out there and we do it every day, and on and on and on. And it isn't easy.
So what keeps you going then? I mean, how does one come back having lost and still fight?
Because you have that conviction that you can win. And I think that's something that sport teaches you. I mean, I play tennis, I play paddle, I play, pickleball, whatever it is. You lose, you're like, okay, I can come back and win. So that conviction to win. I think polo also teaches you a lot about anticipation, because again, it's a game that involves another animal. It's a game that is at a very high speed, and one person has the ball at a time. What are the people who don't have the ball doing? And that's really about anticipation. So it's about, planning that. So I think It also teaches you anticipation.
Because, I mean, on one hand, you're on the horse, you're managing that, plus you're keeping an eye on the ball.
Plus, you're keeping an eye on the other players so you don't have any accidents. So I think from a team sport, it's one of the truest team sports, because you can be as good as you want. But if your team doesn't perform well, you're never going to win.
If and when you write a book, add that to the playbook. Quick round, maybe 2-3 questions I'll toss. Okay, and you'll have either one line at best or one word to say.
Oh God, okay.
Right. What would you tell yourself if you were 25 today?
Work hard.
What would you choose today at this age? Run a company or start a new company?
Run a company.
What's the other sport that you still haven't managed to pursue and play, but you would love to try?
Kite surfing.
What does family teach you?
Togetherness, reliability, people you can count on, and unconditional love.
Does faith play a role in your life?
Big role. I'm extremely religious.
Thanks a lot. Thank you so much, Sanjay.
Thank you.